So this article is pretty much standard fare from the BBC, containing exactly the right balance of elements: sexism, oppression of women, of course, and most importantly, victimhood. And it's the victimhood for the BBC which is most critical. It involves an alleged groping of a student by a professor at Leicester's De Montfort University, where, in the words of the BBC, the man continues to teach. Oh, the humanity. So let's see what is alleged to have happened. The student told the BBC how, in 2018, she had been at a bar with the professor and others. So they're in a social context. They're not woke. He's not a professor in this context, he's just a person. They are people in a bar. At one point, she said, he grabbed her, threw himself at her, and tried to kiss her. Well, right, so that sounds to me like a clumsy pass. A clumsy, drunken pass from someone maybe who misread signs. Details a bit lacking. I mean, that's kind of vague. Did he touch her breast? Did he grab her between the legs? It doesn't seem so. There's no indication that it went that far. Just like a clumsy pass. Is it inappropriate? Yeah, probably inappropriate. But the BBC uses the phrase sexual assault elsewhere in the article. If this was a sexual assault, why didn't the victim contact the police? No one should be sexually assaulted. But that didn't happen. She said she immediately went home and reported it to the university the next day. So what should be an appropriate and proportionate response from the university to this allegation? Assuming that it's the first time it has happened and there is no pattern of persistent harassment of students or staff in the workplace, and there's no indication that this is the case, then surely the most obvious course of action would be a formal warning. But that wasn't enough for her. The woman said she expected him to be sacked, but he was not, and when she asked for his office to be moved, as it was in the same building where she had lessons, DMU refused. So she wanted him fired. She wasn't happy with maybe a formal reprimand or anything of that nature. She wanted him sacked. Does that seem sort of proportionate? I'm not sure it does. So that's it. Out he goes. Cancel him. And when she doesn't get her way, they tried to manipulate me, to make it seem less big than it was, she said. They made me feel silenced. Their response was a complete failure. By December 2019, she said the impact on her mental health of the assault and the university's poor response led her to try to take her own life. So we have this is for the BBC. This is gold. She's a woman is silenced, or that was the word she used. She wasn't actually silenced. That's just how she describes it. The university is refusing to do anything about it. I don't think they did do nothing about it, but that's what she's claiming. And of course her mental health goes downhill, and she tried to take her own life. Well, isn't this just a little dramatic? She wasn't silenced at all. If it impacted her mental health, then I'd argue she has underlying mental health problems. But the ultimate spice for the BBC in all of this is that she tried to take her own life. Drama much? The university did take action, at least that's what they say, and I suspect it would have been a formal warning, which I would argue is appropriate. The problem is in human interaction. It's how on earth do human beings get it on? How on earth do human beings make sort of romantic connections? Generally it involves one party, and it's unfortunately still traditionally the man, to make the first moves. Now you could argue it was inappropriate given the nature of their relationship, but both of them are adults. The professor, I mean, obviously the word professor conjures up grey-haired academics, sort of in advanced years, wearing tweed jackets, but he could be quite young. You just don't know. There's no detail in the article about the man himself. You can sort of understand. So the article is entirely from the perspective of the alleged victim, and there's a few quotes from the university, but there doesn't seem to be any attempt to find out what actually happened. This happened in a bar. There would have been people around. Was he drunk? It's not clear. So I'd say the level of action taken is appropriate. If the man was persistent, if he had a history of doing this kind of thing, fair enough. Then takes stronger action up to and including termination.